Hey everyone, welcome to the Finance Current Affairs session. Good evening to all of you guys. A very good evening to all of you. Let's start the session, guys. Good evening. The very first news for today is related to the RBI issues operational guidelines on the interest subvention for export credit under Niryat Protsahan. So there is a export promotion mission. There is a EPM scheme which is called as Export Promotion Mission. In that we do have Niryat Protsahan. Now RBI has actually issued the operational guidelines for extending the interest subvention. What is interest subvention? It is nothing but a subsidiary, right? Sorry, it is nothing but a subsidy. It is a subsidy which is provided by the government to reduce the effective interest rate, right? So let's suppose if you are an exporter, you are in the business of exports, so you can also get this subsidy related to the interest subvention in the Niryat Protsahan. And it is only for the MSMEs, right? So if you are a micro, small and medium enterprise, then you can gain the benefit of this subsidy, right? So guys, if you are an exporter, if you are an MSME, you are involved in the export business, then you need some pre-shipment export credit. Let's suppose I am a pen manufacturer. I manufacture this pen, right? So first I need money to manufacture this pen. I need to buy raw material in the form of plastic, in the form of ink. Then I need to process that raw material. I need to pack that, and then I'll be dispatching that particular pen, which is my finished goods, for the export purpose. So for all these activities, I need some money. That's called as pre-shipment export credit. And even after selling this pen, even after exporting this pen, again I need some money to bridge the gap between the shipment and the receipt of export proceeds. So I sent you the goods, definitely. Let's suppose I exported the goods to Australia. The importer will also be paying me money in some time. So there is a gap between my shipment and the realization of the money. For that also I need some credit. For that also I need some credit. What do you mean by credit? It is nothing but a loan. So say for example, I am getting a loan at 10%. I'll be also getting a subsidy. As the interest subvention. That's a kind of subsidy for the export credit under the Niryat Protsahan. Right, so definitely the whole objective is to lower the cost of exports for the MSME exporter. I am the MSME exporter. It is going to be very, very beneficial for me. It is going to reduce my cost of exports, right? Now, eligible institutions, all the scheduled commercial banks, urban cooperative banks, state cooperative banks, all India financial institutions, all these institutions are eligible. They can definitely provide the subsidy, right? But only MSMEs, right? Only MSMEs are allowed to participate as the exporter in this particular scheme. What is the interest subvention detail? Now, this can be important for your examination. 2.75% per annum. So let's suppose I am getting an interest rate of 10%. 2.75% will be the interest subvention. From 10%, 2.75% will be the subsidy, and the rest of 7.25% I need to pay. This is the meaning of your interest subvention or the interest subsidy, right? But there is a cap. Maximum up to 50 lakh rupee per MSME exporter. That means if I talk about myself, then I can get 50 lakh rupee worth benefit in this particular scheme. Here I'll be getting a interest subvention of 2.75% per annum, right? So you have to just remember these two numbers plus what is the objective of it, and it is in the Niryat Protsahan. It is launched in the Niryat Protsahan. Okay. Next one, RXIL becomes first trades platform in India to declare and pay dividend. Now what is trades? It is nothing but trade receivable discounting system. Have you guys ever heard about the term trades? TREDS. Trade receivable discounting system. Anyone? Any idea, guys, about trades? So let's suppose I sold some goods to Mr. A worth rupees 50 lakhs. Now Mr. A will pay me after 6 months, for example. Mr. A will be paying me the money after 6 months, right? I have sold some goods to Mr. A on credit basis. But Mr. A will pay me after 6 months. Mr. A will pay me after 6 months. But I need the money right now. I need the money right now. So I can get this bill. I can get this invoice or bill discounted. I can get this bill discounted, right? So this is called as TRED, which is the full form is Trade Receivable Discounting System. Trade Receivable Discounting System. Don't you think that Mr. A is my debtor? Mr. A is my debtor. What are debtors? Trade receivables. Debtors are nothing but trade receivables, right? These are the people, these are the entities to whom I have sold goods on credit. Now I am yet to receive the money, but they will be paying me money after 6 months. The problem is I need the money right now. So what I can do is I can get their invoice discounted. I can get their invoice discounted. So this platform will pay me the money right now. Pay me the money right now. But let's suppose the amount is 50 lakh rupees. They are deducting 1 lakh rupees as discounting charges, and they will only pay me 49 lakh rupees. Obviously, because they will be getting money after 6 months. They will be getting money from Mr. A after 6 months. So as of now, I can get 49 lakh rupees as liquidity. They can also earn 1 lakh rupee as discounting charges. That's how they make money, right? That's how they make money. So everyone is happy. I'm also happy because I'm getting the liquidity right now. Even if I'm getting 49 lakh rupees, that's fine. Time value of money, right? So RXIL is a kind of trade receivable discounting system, right? And it is the first company in India. It is the first trade receivable discounting system platform in India, which has declared and paid interim dividend of 21.6%. Now you don't have to remember the percentage here, but this becomes the first trade receivable discounting system to. Acha, what is a dividend? Can anybody tell me what is a dividend? What is the meaning of dividend? Any idea about this one? What is the meaning of dividend? A part of profit which is distributed, right? A part of profit which is distributed. So this company, RXIL, earned some money, some profits, and it distributed the profits as dividend to the owners of the company, right? So RXIL becomes the first trade receivable discounting system in India to declare and pay the dividend. Even if you know that much, it's fine. Okay, even if you know this much, it will be fine. So basically, TREDS platforms are nothing but for MSMEs. MSMEs can easily receive the payment against the receivables. Receivables are also called as debtors, right? Entities to whom I have sold goods on credit. Even before the actual due date, which is after 6 months, I can get the money right now. And that's the best part of the trade receivables discounting system, right? It helps me with my liquidity. It gives me instant liquidity, and these companies also make good amount of money. Why? Because they are charging good amount of money as discounting charges, right? They are discounting the bills. Now this RXIL was promoted earlier by SIDBI and NSE, right? Plus, this is the only trade receivable discounting system platform in India which is enabling the state government participation also. So as of now, Goa and Tamil Nadu are the two states that are actually participating on this particular platform. Even if you know this much amount of news, that will also be fine. Okay. Next one, RBI has notified the new FEMA Export and Import Regulation 2026. Now earlier also we used to have regulations, but these are the new consolidated regulations. The effective date will be 1st of October 2026. The effective date is 1st of October 2026, right? Earlier, we were definitely having the rules, but for import, we do have different rules. For exports, we do have different rules. These new FEMA regulations, which are related to import and export, they are consolidated rules. They are consolidated rules, right? So that's the best part, and they are applicable from 1st of October 2026. It will be a unified compliance framework, which is a single consolidated law, Plus enhanced reporting and enhanced monitoring is also a part of these circulars. Say for example, you are an authorized dealer bank or any kind of regulated entity, you need to report the data, right, to RBI. So there are so many systems and processes through which you have to report the data. Say for example, platform like EDPMS, IDPMS. Now EDPMS is for exports. So data related to exports needs to be submitted to this platform. Data related to imports needs to be submitted to the IDPMS. There's a Prava portal of RBI also. So what is an authorized dealer bank, guys? Authorized dealer banks are nothing. They are financial institutions which are authorized by Reserve Bank of India, and they can deal with foreign exchange, right? They can easily deal with foreign exchange. They can facilitate cross-border transactions, and plus they have certain compliance reportings as well. So EDPMS stands for Export Data Processing and Monitoring System, which is for the exports, right? You have to report the export data. In IDPMS, which is Import Data Processing and Monitoring System, you have to report the import related data. So this FEMA regulation will be a combined regulation for both imports as well as the exports. Plus you need to remember this timeline as well. Export proceeds realization timeline. Let's suppose I have exported some goods and services. I am in India. I have exported some goods and services to UK. Now within 15 months, I need to realize the export proceeds, right? Whatever amount I have, whatever worth of amount of goods I have sold on credit basis, I need to realize that export proceeds, that amount within 15 months from the date of shipment or the date of invoice, right? So this is also important again. Next is EbixCash. EbixCash World Money becomes the first AD Category 2 entity to receive an in-principle approval as a PSP. Acha, what is a PSP? PSP means Payment Service Provider. PSP means Payment Service Provider. So this is the first AD Category 2 bank. We are having certain categories in the authorized dealer. AD means authorized dealer. We do have category 1, we do have authorized dealer category 2 as well. So this is a AD category 2 entity, which is the first entity to get a payment service provider authorization in the GIFT IFSC. Now obviously this transaction was in GIFT IFSC, so the approval was granted not by RBI but the International Financial Service Center Authority, right? So just like authorized dealers, AD category 2 is also permitted by Reserve Bank of India to deal in the foreign exchange for specific transactions. No doubt AD category 1 bank is a more superior category, I will say, rather than AD category 2, because there are certain restrictions on the AD category 2 which are not there on the AD category 1, right? So definitely now this approval, the payment service provider authorization, will enable this entity to process digital payments between banks, between merchants, between different financial institutions, and it will be also a part of payment network, right? So they are acting as a middle layer. Basically, if you need to make me a payment, then we need a payment gateway in between, we need a payment service provider in between. So it now facilitates payment, it connects the merchants with the banks, processes the transaction in the GIFT IFSC. Okay, so please do remember this news, because there are so many PSPs, no problem at all, but this is the first AD category 2 entity which got the approval of PSP in the GIFT IFSC. Okay, so this news becomes definitely important, and it's a very simple one. You just have to remember the name of the entity. You just have to remember the name and classification of the entity. That's fine. Right? Next one, World Bank has approved 5,700 crore assistance for the project in Haryana. This project is related to Jal Sanrakshit, right? So this is a technical and a financial assistance by World Bank. The amount is 5,700 crore. Approximately it is 680 million US dollar for the Jal Sanrakshit Haryana project. The disbursement phase is also there, so it will be definitely disbursed in multiple phases, not all in one. It is a self-reliant water management and irrigation infrastructure building project which Haryana is aiming to make. Right? You don't have to remember the each and every data of this particular news. You just have to get a quick understanding of the finance current affairs. Right? Those finance current affairs which are important for your examination, I do mark it. Right? We do cover it in the MCQ session also. But some of the finance current affairs, you can just read the headline and crux of it, and that's fine. Acha, next one can be important definitely. Union Cabinet approves 5,000 crore equity infusion into SIDBI. So definitely in the SIDBI, there will be equity infusion up to 5,000 crore rupee. So it's a big amount. This infusion will be there in the SIDBI to enhance the credit facilities for the MSME, and that's what the work of SIDBI is, right? We all know that SIDBI is Small Industries and Development Bank of India, right? It is also a All India financial institution. It is also an AIFI. So the whole idea is to strengthening the SIDBI's institutional capacity, right? To expand the credit flow to the micro, small and medium enterprises. Higher the flow, higher the inflow in SIDBI, higher the inflow will be there in the MSME sector also. So again, this money will somehow flow in the MSME sector. That's what the work of SIDBI is, right? It is a principal financial institution for the promotion, financing, development of MSMEs in India. We do have so many DFIs, right? Development financial institutions. Like we do have NABARD, we do have NAPFID, we do have SIDBI also. It is a AIFI also, All India Financial Institution, and 5,000 crore equity infusion will be there in SIDBI. And it will be done in definitely multiple parts. It will be done in 3 tranches. That means in 3 installments. First, SIDBI will be getting 3,000 crore on 31st March 2025. Then 1,000 crore in 31st March 2026, and 1,000 crore will be there in 31st March 2027. Definitely the whole idea is expanding the credit facilities to the MSMEs, and that too at the competitive interest rates. Next one is related to net FDI negative. The net FDI is negative, and it's been the 4th consecutive month in November 2025. So this is the data which was recently released on the website of RBI. Net FDI negative figure. Right, so this is the 4th consecutive month in November 2025. Again, RBI has reported the data related to net FDI, and it is a negative figure. So the FDI outflow exceeded the inflow by about 446 million USD, right? So it's a excess of outflow over inflow. Inflow means how much investment is coming in India. That's a positive thing. How much outflow is going out of India? How much investment is going out of India? So the investment that is going out of India is quite higher as compared to the inflows. That's why we are net note, we are negative, right? On a net basis, we are negative. So definitely the net FDI is calculated by reducing the outflows from the gross inflows, right? And the reasons for having a negative FDI is higher repatriations and disinvestments. The foreign companies actually repatriated the money, right, outside India by selling the equity stakes in different entities. And the outward investment by Indian firms have also aggressively expanded their portfolio by investing in foreign countries, right? And the major source countries included Japan, Singapore, and United States. Data wise, together they are accounting for over 75% of the total inflow. So whatever inflow is coming, let's suppose 100 rupee inflow is coming in India, out of that 75 rupee is coming from these states, right? These countries, sorry. right? And this figure of net FDI has been negative since August 2025. This is the data of November 2025. Next one is the state data, state consolidated fiscal deficit, which has widened to 3.3% of the GDP. This data was also released on the website of Reserve Bank of India only recently, right? So the new data is 3.3%. I'm talking about financial year 2025 ka data. Earlier, the data used to be 3% and now it is up by 0.3%. So the new data is 3.3% of the GDP. You have to remember this figure. Okay, this is the data of financial year 2025. Now it was recently released in the State Finance, a study of budget on the RBI website. And why there was an increase? States have actually increased their borrowings, particularly under the central government's 50-year interest-free loan. So earlier there was a scheme of central government. This was a special assistance to the states for their capital investments. So the central government was giving special assistance to the states, different states, for capital investment. And in this particular scheme, the states have actually borrowed a huge sum of money, which resulted into the increase in the fiscal deficit. What is a deficit? How much I am earning is less than my amount of expenditure. I am earning 1 lakh rupees, but my expenditure, my income is 1 lakh rupees, say for example, but my expenditure is 1,20,000 rupees. So can I say that I have a deficit of 20,000? I have a deficit of 20,000, right? And that's what happening with our government as well. Their income is less than the spending. This is the driving reason. This is the driving reason. This is the state data. So you need to please definitely remember this number of 3.3% of the GDP. Acha, the capital expenditure is at audible, visible, everyone? I hope now you can hear me. There was some electricity issue at my end. Okay, thanks for confirming and waiting, guys. Apologies for the disturbance. Lights चली गई थी यहाँ पे. Okay, now it is fine. Okay, guys. So I was talking about the state finance data, right? The study of budgets for the financial year 2026 was released. What data you have to remember? This 3.3% and the capital expenditure of 2.7%. You have to remember. Acha, do you guys know the difference between capital expenditure and revenue expenditure? Any idea about that? What is the difference between capital expenditure and revenue expenditure? Here I can see that the capital expenditure data is around 2.7% of the GDP. And the budgeted data for 2026, for the financial year 2026, is 3.2% of the GDP, right? So when we talk about the capital expenditure, when you do the capital expenditure, it results in the creation of some capital asset, right? It results in creation of some capital asset. And when I talk about the revenue expenditure, it is the day-to-day expenditure. Let's suppose if I pay salaries, that is a kind of revenue expenditure. But when I talk about capital expenditure, let's suppose I acquired this laptop. This is a capital asset. I acquired land and building. That's a capital asset. I'm investing in infrastructure. That is a capital asset. Right? So please do remember the budgeted data for the financial year 2026 in terms of capital expenditure is 3.2% of the GDP. And the gross fiscal deficit has increased to 3.3% of the GDP in financial year 2025. This is the budgeted data of capital expenditure for financial year 2026. Right? That is the trend. Now the next news here is India to include GST, e-Vahan data, as well as the natural gas consumption information in the calculation of the quarterly gross domestic product. So guys, if we talk about this particular data, from now onwards in our GDP, gross domestic product, right? We need to include the data of goods and service tax collection. We need to include the data of e-Vahan. We need to also include the natural gas. So all these three things now we have to include in the data of the GDP calculation, right? All these three things we have to include in the data of the GDP calculation, right? And we are going to revise the base year definitely to 2023. Now the financial year 2023 is the new base year for your GDP data as well, right? So please do remember this stuff. These three types of data will again be included in the quarterly GDP estimates now. Now this is definitely going to make the GDP estimate more responsive, and it will definitely reflect the actual economic condition. Yes, definitely this data is going to be very, very crucial, right? These three types of data are very, very crucial, and there's a need for incorporation of the data emanating from these three areas to be included in GDP. And that's why we can say that now GDP estimates will be more responsive to the actual economic condition, right? Then guys, Japan is trying to definitely incorporate the UPI payment for the Indian tourists. So Japan is doing the trial for India's UPI payment for the Indian tourist. Now so many people are traveling to Japan right nowadays, and that's why we can say in the project Nexus also, India has tied with so many countries for the internationalization of UPI. We had a contract with Japan as well. We signed a MOU with Japan as well. And now if an Indian tourist is traveling to Japan, they will be getting the QR codes payment, right? They can directly participate with the merchants via UPI application. Say for example, your Google Pay or Phone Pay. We do have so many UPI applications, right? So by using those applications, you can directly participate with the merchants based out of Japan. And definitely it is done through a partnership. So NTT Data Japan and NPCI, National Payment Corporation of India, these two entities have done a partnership for same, right? Now so many tourists are visiting Japan, and the same agreement has been done with other countries also, which is resulting in the internationalization of the UPI payments. Next one is related to RBI news. So RBI is going to conduct a 90-day variable repo auction, right? VRR auction under the liquidity adjustment facility. What this VRR auction is all about, no doubt I'll be releasing a detailed YouTube video by today only. Today, I think 8 p.m. a detailed video related to the liquidity infusion by Reserve Bank of India will be released. But what this VRRR auction is all about, RBI invites banks to participate in the auction. Now these banks, what they can do is, they can offer interest rates. Say for example, bank 1 is paying 5% interest rate, is ready to pay 5% interest rate. Bank 2 is ready to pay 6% interest rate. Bank 3 is ready to pay 7% interest rate. And accordingly, the highest bidder will be getting liquidity, right? So RBI will be pushing liquidity into the banking system with the help of variable rate repo auction. The amount will be 25,000 crore and the tenure will be 90 days. For 90 days, this is going to be, yes, competitive bidding will happen definitely. The bank who is bidding higher will be getting the VRR facility, right? This is just done for the infusion of liquidity. As of now, Indian banking system is actually struggling with liquidity, and that's why we do have this tool of Reserve Bank of India. Next one, RBI has entered into a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with European Securities and Market Authority, right? RBI has entered into an MOU with the European Securities and Market Authority. The whole idea of this MOU is exchanging the information and bringing more and more cooperation related to the central counterparties, right? So what are central counterparties? These are basically specialized financial institutions. They are acting as a middleman of the financial market, right? So whatever trades are been there between both the countries, there are central counterparties in between, and now RBI and European Securities and Market Authority, they have signed an MOU for the control, for the better engagement, cooperation and exchange of information between the central counterparties. Now this can be important for your examination also. Next one, again a liquidity infusion. News by Reserve Bank of India, RBI is announcing here open market purchase of government securities, right? So what RBI is actually doing is, RBI is purchasing government securities, G6, right? Government securities from different financial inclusion. If RBI is purchasing government security, definitely RBI has to pay money. So can I say that RBI is infusing liquidity? If I purchase government securities from you, I have to pay you some money. Now banks are actually struggling with liquidity nowadays, and that's why RBI has announced an open market operation. In this manner, there will be an infusion of liquidity in the banking sector also, right? So here we can see the aggregate amount is 50,000 crore rupees. Definitely it is going to resolve the liquidity issues, and at the same time RBI is also injecting the liquidity through long-term USD INR buy-sell swap. Let's try to understand this also. वैसे there is a dedicated video for this one which will be released by today 8 p.m. but it will be in completely Hindi. Okay, it will be in mix of Hindi and English. For those who are in paid course who prefer complete English language videos, they can definitely use this particular video for the explanation purpose. So how RBI is injecting liquidity by using swaps? Let's suppose there is a financial institution. This financial institution is having dollars. RBI is also having rupees. This financial institution is in need of rupee, INR. So what RBI can do is, RBI can take this dollar for the time being. So RBI can buy dollars from this bank, and in return, RBI can sell INR to this bank. So can I say that this bank is now having INR? This will definitely give liquidity to this bank, right? जितना डॉलर काम नहीं आएगा उससे ज्यादा INR will be helpful for these banks, right? So this is a swap transaction. This is a swap transaction. You give me your dollars, I'll give you my INR. I'll be giving you my INR. But after some time, we will reverse this transaction. What do you mean by reversing? So this is the first transaction. What will be the second transaction? RBI will again sell dollars to the bank, and the bank will again sell rupees to the RBI. So can I say that we have to reverse these swap transaction? First, RBI is injecting liquidity into the bank in the form of INR by taking US dollar, and then after some time we will reverse this transaction. Sir, what is the need of doing this kind of transaction? Look, earlier I was not having that much liquidity. In the banks. For the time being, RBI poured some liquidity into the banking system, right? RBI poured some liquidity into the banking system. Later on, always the liquidity, the interest rate works in cycles. As of now, we are struggling with lack of liquidity. After some time, we will be struggling with the excess of liquidity, right? So whenever there is an excess of liquidity, or once the swap transaction expires, I can see that it is a 3-year transaction. This is called as the first leg or the near leg, the first transaction. The far leg, when we reverse the transaction, is called as the second leg, right? So as of now, we are going to do in 2026. The first leg we are going to do in 2026, and this transaction is going to reverse after 3 years in 2029. So can I say that RBI is actually injecting durable liquidity into the system, right? This is a durable liquidity, 3 years liquidity into the system. It is not transient liquidity or temporary liquidity. This is a durable liquidity. This is not a temporary liquidity, right? So first RBI will be pouring INR into the banking system, and after that we will reverse the transaction. This we only do for the purpose of managing the liquidity very well. Maybe after 3 years the things get sorted, right? So we can now reverse the transaction. So this is just for the time being, but because of the timeline, I can see 3 years. So definitely it injects a durable liquidity into the banking system, right? Into the banking system. So this is the USD by INR buy sell swap. Acha, you will try to understand swaps in a better way once you are done with the lecture of derivatives, right? So wait for that lecture. For those who have recently joined, definitely you guys will be understanding the concept of swap in a better way. Okay guys, so thank you so much for today. That's all from my end for today in the finance current affairs. Tomorrow we'll be covering the MCQs related to 2 weeks, okay? Related to 2 weeks from 15th of January to 30th of January, we'll be covering the MCQs as well, right? So see you soon guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for attending the session. See you soon tomorrow with a lot of concepts based on different MCQs on finance current affairs. Okay guys, thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care. Have a great evening.